Historical European martial arts has its own language, and if you don't know the basics, then you'll be lost before you even pick up a sword. Let me break it down for you in simple terms. Let's start from the longsword basics. This is a Federschwert. It's a practice/tournament longsword which has an identical handling as a true battlefield longsword. It's made for safe sparring. Yes, let's start from the blade. The longsword is a double-edged sword, which means that you can cut with both edges of the blade. The blade also has two halves. From the middle to the point is a weak half of the blade, and from the middle to the crossguard is a stronger part of the blade. And the blade also has a tip/point for thrusting. But also, Federschwert is specifically designed to have a really really light flex capabilities. That means that when I try to flex my blade, it comes back to the initial position. This is crucial for absorbing blows and prevent breakage. Moving on, next in line is the crossguard, which is made to protect our hands from the opponent's blade when the blade of our opponent is sliding off of ours. Yes, so it doesn't hit our fingers. And the crossguard is also sometimes used for hooking and for striking, but that's only in historical context. In sparring, in HEMA environment, we don't do such kind of strikes because they may be dangerous. They are dangerous. Sorry. Moving on, there's a hilt/grip area for holding your sword with your hands here. Most often than not, of course. There are specific techniques when you could hold your sword with a half swording technique, but not always. And at the end, there's a pommel, which is made for proper balance distribution and proper weight, and of course for smashing your opponent's face, but not in HEMA environment. Please be careful with it. This was made only in history, because of course it's dangerous and it does pretty huge blunt damage. But our HEMA protective gear doesn't shield us from the blunt attacks like this. The second thing in line are attacks. The longsword has 6 lines of cuts, which are downward cuts, upward cuts, and horizontal cuts. And there's also a thrust made with the tip of our longsword. Remember that each of these attacks also cover you more or less from the opponent's attack. And there's a next thing called a counter attack, which is an attack made by you into your opponent's attack. So when your opponent is taking the initiative and is doing an offensive action, so the attack, then you can attack as well into him. And the one who hits first and closes off the line usually wins. But that's maybe too much to understand at the beginning. And if this feels like a lot, I break down each of these moves inside my program called From Gamer to Swordsman. That way you actually train this stuff instead of just hearing it. Hi, before we go further, I'm Michael Kozin and my mission is to help you to get off of your video games bar by training real-life longsword techniques. So let's get back into the video. Next in line is defense. The basic defense of sword fighting is a parry or a block, which is basically when you cover yourself with your blade from an opponent's attack. It may be to the left side, you can parry to the right side, you can parry to the top, but not really to the bottom. I mean, you can basically, but that's not efficient. You just want to get your footwork right, so you don't get hit to the legs. And the second defense, which is not really good for the beginners, but still is somewhat usable, is beatings of the opponent's blade aside, so a beating. But as I said, it's more of a oh shit type of defense, so basically last resort. And the third thing about defense is the offense of defense, so a riposte. The riposte is made after your parry of the opponent's attack. The riposte is made after the parry as an answer with your own attack. Next thing you should know all about is footwork. So the first footwork is a passing step. It's basically like walking, but the passing step is a bit more controlled, of course being in a fencing stance. Looks something like this. When I advance, this is one step forward and a passing step to retreat. Advance and retreat. And there's a second footwork pattern that is a bread and butter for every HEMA fencer and the Olympic fencer as well. It's called a fencing step, or in other words, a gathering step. The thing about the gathering or the fencing step is that it's very modular. It's designed to precisely control distance management to your opponent, which is the core principle of footwork. You may want to do a big fencing step to your opponent, so to advance or to retreat. Or maybe you want to do two shorter fencing steps to advance or two shorter steps to retreat. The choice is yours, and that's why the fencing step is the king of footwork. And of course, the core principle of footwork that I've already told you is distance management to your opponent. This is basically the most important concept that you need to remember when you're fighting, because the distance makes or breaks the fight. Next thing you should know about the glossary of HEMA is offline blade. Your blade being online means that you can do quicker attacks, but quicker parries, so defense as well. The other way around, so offline blade means that you don't threaten your opponent with your sword, of course, right away. It may be used to mislead your opponent and to give him a view that you're exposed to his attacks. But you know that he wants to attack you, so you do some kind of compound action from some specific offline, like so-called guard. But the offline blade often leaves you exposed. So yeah, there are upsides and downsides to this. The upside is that offline blade gives you more powerful like parries and blows. For example, from this iron guard, I can do very powerful beating of my opponent's blade aside and a direct attack into him. But if I don't do it correctly or quick enough, I'll just get hit before I even get to connect my blade with his. So if you're a beginner, just stick to the online blade, because it's the most versatile one. You're already prepared for a quick attack and for a quick defense in one place. So the next thing is debind. Debind is when your blade meets your opponent's blade. and they stick to each other. In the bind, you can do lots of different actions, and the bind is a fight of force and deceit. What I mean is that you can feel the pressure of the bind from your opponent's blade with your own, of course. And the bind nearly always happens in online blade. So when you threaten your opponent with your blade and your opponent as well. And the next thing about the bind is that it's controlled with the strong half of the blade and with the weak part of the blade. So, for example, if my opponent's blade ends near my strong half of the blade, then I have more structure and power to move his blade away from myself and maybe thrust into him. And the same goes for me. If I go in with my weak half of the blade into him, but he manages to get my blade from himself, then I leave myself exposed to his direct attack. But the bind has also a deceit variation. You can disengage from the bind by just retreating from your opponent, so you're increasing the distance to your opponent so he doesn't threaten you as much. Or you can stay in the bind, and when you feel that the opponent gives you a lot of pressure in your blade, so he's overtaking you, then you can disengage from the bind from a top position and renew your attack from the other side into your opponent. Or even better, but it's for more advanced guys, you can even disengage from below, which is a shorter move which gives you more time to go with a thrust into your opponent. This is one of my most favorite things to do in a sword fight, when I manage to do this kind of disengage with a bind, so like a little feint, and go into my opponent with a thrust. So next in line is a feint. What is a feint? A feint in sword fighting basically means a lie with your sword. So you lie to your opponent that maybe you want to try to attack him from your right side, so from his left, but mid-attack you change the direction and you attack from the other side. That's called a feint. And a feint is used against more defensive opponents who have very good parrying, so they have very good reaction to the attack. So that's why the feint may be a good option for this kind of opponents, to bamboozle him with your attacks or the way of the attack and really come from the other side. But that takes skill and repetition. So next in line is not really a sword fighting glossary, but more of a HEMA etiquette. So I'll start from the sparring. A sparring in a HEMA environment is basically a practice fighting with one opponent. So next in line is the exchange. An exchange is basically one fight until someone gets hit. Next in line is a salute. Every opponent has to do a salute before every exchange to give an information to the other person that they're ready for a fight. So both of the opponents do simultaneously a salute to mark that they're ready for an exchange. And the next thing is getting hit in an exchange, of course. So if one of the sides get hit to the body, then both of the opponents have to stop the exchange immediately. And the one who gets hit has to mark with their hand, or just say loudly to their opponent, because we're in masks, where they got hit. And before the next exchange, both of the opponents have to make room to each other and then do a salute. So just like I told you previously. So the next thing is a double. It's basically a situation when in an exchange both fighters get hit at roughly at the same time. So that basically means that no one gets a point. In a realistic scenario of sword fight, that would result in both opponents wounded. So both of them may die. Yeah, that's brutal, but that's the reality. And the last thing about the HEMA etiquette is the unnecessary violence. May it be mid-exchange or after the sparring, so the fight, it may lead to you being kicked out from the club or the tournament, or even worse, lead to the injury of your opponent. And it usually comes from no self-control over your own emotions. So when you're pissed off and you're fighting, then don't get your emotions into your head. When you're fighting, you have to focus on the actual fight and the actual technique. And yes, some emotions like the feeling of resolve or wanting to win is not bad because they motivate you mid-exchange. But some emotions like anger may lead you to actually be worse at fighting. So get your brain and get your mind straight and relaxed mid-fight. That way you can actually focus on your opponent and counter him very well. And that's what video games and Hollywood shows you, that the sword fight consists of very powerful emotions like hate or anger. But in the real sword fight, you have to be focused, you have to be 100% sure in your skill against the other opponent. Of course, HEMA is the best environment to practice the exercise sword fight. So it's the most realistic and safe, by the way, environment to sharpen your skills with a sword. Not with a sharpened sword, of course, but with a blunt one like this. And that's why I created a community called From Gamer to Swordsman. You can check out the link in the description. And inside I talk more about these things. I do a deep dive into each of these moves and how to actually train them as a total beginner without any experience. It's basically a longsword program for beginners, a guide even. And by the way, there is a community of guys who just like you started with nothing and wanted to learn a real skill of sword fight. They have the same struggles as you. Maybe they have no time, maybe they have no discipline, but they keep themselves accountable with the community. And I really recommend you to check out the link in the description. It's the first step for you to become a real longsword swordsman. And remember, always take the initiative.